Welcome back. Before we jump into coding, I want to take just a minute to answer a question that you might be asking yourself. Why do we have our models separate from our routers and controllers? Especially when we already said that it's good to have related code together, which is why we keep our routers and our controllers in one folder. This is a good question to have. The reason is that we keep our routers and controllers together because they're always one-to-one. There's always a controller for a router that uses a controller. For example, our planets router directly calls functions in our planet controller. And that controller is only ever used by that router. But for our models, we might have many of them used in one controller. Maybe it's a stars model together with a planets model, and we're aggregating those pieces of data that we can access from those models into some sort of solar system controller or some other space-related grouping of stars and planets. And it's possible that our planet's model might be used in another controller, maybe in one that deals with mission launches. And maybe our stars model is used in a constellation controller. We separate our models because our data doesn't necessarily match up with the collections and API endpoints and overall functionality that our API needs to support through our controllers and our routes. We might have many models being used by a single controller, or we might have one model that's used in many different routes, in different controllers. That would be the example where our planets model might be used in a solar system controller and also in a launches or a missions controller. In either case, our models and controllers are not one-to-one. It's often the case that the way our data is stored, say in a database, doesn't necessarily correspond to how our API and application need to access that data. And it's the controller's responsibility to provide the data in the way that our application needs, and not in the way that it's stored in some database. This is where our model provides an abstraction that can transform and shape our data to and from the form that it's needed for our API. So we can keep our planets model, for example, next to our planets controller. But as a general pattern, that doesn't make sense. We want to be consistent regardless of which data we're working with. And we want to be flexible enough to support new models that may or may not be one-to-one with our controllers and the routes that are tied to those controllers. So it's only our routers and controllers that will live together, and we'll keep our models in a separate folder. All right, I know that's kind of abstract, so let's put our knowledge of models to use and get some real data to work with. On to the next video.